Hi, everyone. Welcome to Journey into Ayurveda. I am Kate, and I'm with Ashwini, of course. Ashwini, in our last episode, we chatted about some of the things that we learned from class, some of the things that have been most helpful for us. And we both shared about learning more about like what to eat, when to eat was really helpful. And then I think we each kind of shared a little bit about our own rituals or our daily practices, or what's known as Dinacharya. So we wanted to dive a little bit more into that. But before that, Ashwini, I would love for you to take us through a little chant. Last week we did Ganesh, and you have one planned for us today. So you want to take us through that?
Yes, this is my favorite shloka. This is from Ashtanga Hridayam, the first shloka of Ashtanga Hridayam. So let's chant the shloka. Raga diroga satatanushakta Asheshakaya prasutanashesha Autsukyamoha ratitanjaghana Yo apurva vaidyaya namostu tasmai. So the translation of this shloka is Raga, Dvesha, Moha, the desire, hatred, and delusion are the three main causes of the disease. The pendulum of wanting what we don't have and not wanting what we have is the root cause of many diseases. So I bowed down to such a physician who completely understands the cause and help us to remove it. It's like a little bit translation of what I said.
Yes, I love that. And our Dr. J always says like mind care is life care. So I think that fits in so nicely there.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Ashwini. I loved hearing that. And should we get going?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So, Kate, tell me, what's your morning routine like before you started applying all the Ayurvedic principles?
Yeah. So I forgot to mention this in my opening, but Ashwini and I have not always been the Ayurvedic goddesses that we are right now. So we thought we would start with some of our past routines. So Ashwini, I'll start with like college Kate. Like college Kate was very different than who I am now. So a lot of my routine in college, which at this point was about 20 years ago that I was in college, was really driven by what time my classes were, what I was doing for work, and honestly, like how much I drank and partied the night before. And so all of that factored into things. And I didn't really have much of a routine. Like it was like, I wake up and I wanted to wake up before, they stopped serving brunch in the dorms. Or, I knew that I had to be at work at 1. And so I needed to be up by like noon or whatever it was, like just like really chaotic, kind of all over the board schedule. And honestly, even into my 20s, when I was working as a parole officer, I kind of had the same thing where my routine was really governed by my job, which there was a lot of autonomy in that position. So I kind of was able to determine my start time based on what I had going on for the day. So sometimes that meant that I wouldn't start until 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock. For the most part, I never scheduled anything early in the mornings unless there was some kind of meeting, because I used to not be a morning person. But that meant that I had a really late night. I wouldn't get home until 10 p.m. I would have been out doing home visits, talking to people, like driving around, like a lot of Vata aggravating stuff. And would take me a really long time to fall asleep. So, my sleep routine was really off. I would get up in the morning, like grab, I would like, shower and brush my teeth and stuff. And then I would grab like a Coke, like a Coca-Cola and a protein bar, and would sit in traffic, especially in my first place that I lived in the metro area in Colorado, in Denver. And I would like sit in traffic and like drink my Coke and eat my sugary protein bar. And like, that was my morning practice. So it's been, quite an evolution to where I'm at now. And the weekends were kind of varied, like same thing. I would sleep as late as I could. And I think I was better at making myself breakfast on the weekends, but it was still not great.
Yeah. It's funny, like I will give an idea of my old routine, and I'm sure there is a lot of people out there who might be listening and who are in the same boat as we used to be, not so well put together in consistent routine. but that's okay. Like I learned this idea called pivot. I was watching a video and I heard one person talking about the concept of pivot. The idea is not being afraid to change directions when something isn't working. When people like what they are doing and what's not going well, a lot of time they hesitate to make changes. We have to be ready to pivot as soon as something needs to be improvised. And also life is short. It really shouldn't matter what stage life you are in and how much you have accomplished. At some point life isn't so short that you don't get a chance to pivot and something you're really passionate about. That's becoming my mantra now. It's not just about pivoting, it's also not blaming myself when I do it. I like to pivot, and when I do it I don't blame myself.
Yeah, I love that. And that ties into what you talked about in our last episode of like that compassionate piece for yourself. I think that's so big. And that pivot idea is huge because the mind looks for what's familiar, like that's what it's comfortable doing. And it's easier for the mind to do that. And so I think being able to pivot and make that change is huge. So such a great practice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So tell us what have your routines looked like in the past? Let's hear about young Ashwini.
My morning routines were far from ideal. In college, during undergrad, it was not so bad because I lived with my parents and college schedule dictated my consistent routine. But when I moved out for my master's, I used to stay asleep late, finishing my assignments, waking up late. Plus, I was studying organic chemistry, so I was inhaling a lot of chemicals, and I was a nerd. So I was like top 10 in the class, but my health suffered. So then I got married. I was stressful situation of not getting visa, no routine. My health suffered again while I was doing nothing for like 10 months. And once I came to US, within a year, I found a job, but the job was very demanding. For few years, I was waking up like 4 in the morning and drinking protein shake, like you said, for breakfast. Like soon after that, COVID happened. I took a break a little bit and found another job, which was really good. But the house we were in just got like major mold problems. So for 2 months we lived in hotels and Airbnb, and again no routine, a lot of stress. So in conclusion, there was like no routine, just a bunch of protein shake in the morning and mold and stress, and my health was going down the drain.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, you're inhaling all these chemicals, you were exposed to mold, you're trying to get a visa, you're trying to get married, and then you're having protein drinks, which like those are not great. And so many of us have been doing those. So that's a lot.
Yeah, but the silver lining in all is when I said enough is enough, I left my job and I got some mentoring session from Ayurvedic practitioner. She referred me to Kerala Ayurveda, and that's when my life completely changed, and I have beautiful morning routines now.
That sounds amazing. I love that. And I'm so glad you're able to find Carola and you had the practitioner and sounds like you're able to make some really good changes too. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we've been chatting about past version of ourselves. So what's your morning routine now?
So usually I'm, usually awake by about 5:36, like kind of like a big gap there. I do always set an alarm, so I make sure it goes off. So because I want to keep that routine and keep that rhythm going. So once I'm awake, I usually lay in bed for a little bit and kind of wake up. And I'm a big journaler and a big dreamer. Like we all dream, but I typically remember a lot of my dreams, and I have a lot of things that come through in my dreams. So I'll take some time before I get out of bed and journal. So I usually have my journal right by the bed. So I do that. And then I do still check my phone sometimes. So I like scroll a little bit. That's something I'm still working on. But that's, part of what I do. And then I get up, I brush my teeth, I scrape my tongue, I do the oil pulling. As I'm swishing the oil around, I heat up some water. And then once that's ready, spit the oil out, and then I start sipping on the hot water to help kind of warm my body up, but also to help get rid of some of the ama first thing. Ama being that like unprocessed, undigested content. So that can be food or anything else. And then I start doing my full body Abhyanga. So I use primarily sesame oil, since I'm a little bit more, I have Vata there. I use coconut oil sometimes, like in the summers, especially when it gets really hot. If I'm in Colorado, I need the like cooling sensation of coconut oil, but otherwise it's sesame oil. So you do that. Sometimes I do like the full head of Yanga, or I'll just put the drops on the crown of my head, but I do pull like the oil all the way through my hair if I'm doing that. And then that's part of the practice too. I have like medicated oil that I use on my thoracic area because I have some, that's called TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome, that was recommended by Kerala, one of the practitioners there. So I use that. And then I have some mugwort oil, which is not from Ayurveda, but rather something from an herbalist and some energy work that I had. So I use that on my like womb space, my second chakra area, and sometimes on my low back. That helps with circulation. So I have oil literally everywhere on my body, and then I usually will robe up, and then I head out to wherever I am, and I start doing some yoga and some pranayama, some breath work. So typically it starts with like that alternative nostril breathing, that Nadi Shodhana. I have no idea how many rounds I do. I don't know how long I do it. I just start doing it, and then once I feel calmer, I'm like, okay, I'm probably good there. Depending on, where my digestion is, sometimes I'll do Kapalabhati. That's a like invigorating heating practice. I usually will do some kind of Sikh prayer that's for protection. And then I'll do some other kind of energy work that I've learned from some of my different teacher training programs. And then I do yoga. So the yoga, the physical practice, doing some asana, and that really varies based on where I am in my cycle, or, if it's warm or cold out, or if I'm driving or I'm not driving for the day. So sometimes it can be a little bit more activating, a little bit more athletic, or it can be, something really gentle, or something. Sometimes I don't even do it at all. It just kind of depends what I need and what's going to be best for my body. And then I do, most days I'll do Reiki, which is a Japanese form of energy healing. So I can do that on myself. And that's usually, what I do. And then I head out and I shower, I take my dog on a walk, and then I have breakfast. And I'm usually like, quote unquote, like ready for the day by about 8. So all of that usually takes, and mine really varies. I don't know. We'll see what you do for yours, but this is the Vata in me where it's like, nah, it kind of varies. I would say it's usually about anywhere from like an hour to almost 2 hours for my morning practice, just based on what I need and what I have going on for the day.
That sounds like a solid routine. How do you make sustainable of day in and day out of that routine?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So this did not all happen overnight. I've had a long-standing night practice that I've been doing for probably 5 years at this point. So I think having that long-standing night routine has been easy because I've known like, oh, I have this routine. I can like do something similar in the morning. And then the other thing is that I have a partner who's also studying Ayurveda and had a morning routine kind of already established. So as we were, learning the coursework and kind of getting to know each other, and he was sharing more about his practice, it made it easier for me to like develop my own and to like kind of share what we were doing with each other. And so that supportive piece is really helpful too. So whether that's a partner or a friend or family member, whoever it is, like somebody that, and they don't have to do the practices with you or understand them necessarily, but somebody who's supportive and can kind of hold you accountable for those practices, I think is really important. And then the other thing is to start really small. So like I said, I didn't have all of these things like right away. Like first, I think it honestly was just like the oral care and doing my yoga. That was probably the first thing that I did. But I follow a woman on social media, the holistic psychologist, and she talks about this concept of having one small promise. So just doing one small thing every day for yourself. And then once that is regimented and it's habituated, then you can add on to it. So I think starting small and then like trusting yourself that you can build onto it. And like you've talked about too, like being compassionate with yourself. So if I only have 30 minutes to do my morning practice, like I'm going to do my 30 minutes and it's going to be Abhyanga because that's what I need the most, I think. So starting small, having the supportive people around you, partner or otherwise, and then kind of going from there has been really helpful. So it's a lot that I do in 2 hours. But yeah, Ashwini, I would love to know, like, what's your routine look like now?
Yeah, I'm still perfecting my morning routine. Nowadays, I'm waking up like 5:36 in the morning. I used to have like a habit of, like you said, I still have a habit of looking at my phone as soon as waking up. So for that, my solution is I'm transforming that habit into like putting some bhajana music in the morning, so that I listen to when I'm listening to those music, I start doing my brushing. I rinse my mouth with a tripala kashaya. We will talk about what it is later. And I do my tongue scraping, oil pulling, and in the meantime, I think about my breakfast. The breakfast. Why I think about breakfast is, you said like taking small step towards your change. The most problem I had with my routine was not having breakfast like till 11 o'clock or like 12 o'clock sometimes, which created a lot of vata in me. That's created a lot of dryness inside my body. So that's why, like, I really think about having a solid breakfast in the morning at the right time. If I don't do anything, I just make sure like I have that breakfast in the morning.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and for breakfast, I do kanji. We say kanji, all sorts of things. It's just a lot of water in rice, and I just make that boil, and I go do my abhyanga, and I usually use coconut oil for my abhyanga. I'm very pitta. Like, sesame oil is too heating for me sometimes, so I use coconut oil. And during that time, I listen to some meditation music, and then after 10-15 minutes, I go to shower. And after a shower, usually I do some puja or meditation, and then I eat breakfast. I like to go
Amazing.
for a walk after my breakfast. I know it's ideal to do it after Abhyanga, but for me, like after breakfast works really well. So that's what I do usually.
Yeah, that's amazing. Will you share a little bit more? You mentioned a couple of things, and I'll try to pronounce them as best I can. The Vijana, Kanji, and the Puja. Can you explain a little bit more about those?
Yeah, bhajana is a form of worshiping, worship to cultivate bhakti. Bhakti is a literal translation to love, but when it's the love is something greater than yourself, it's called bhakti. Usually, bhajana is form of songs, so I'm listening to devotional songs on YouTube, mostly Hanuman Chalisa. I listen to that on YouTube. And for puja is like a ritual. It's an aspect of worship, like lighting oil lamp and saying some prayers in the morning. The last one is kanji. Yeah, it's a porridge. It's well cooked rice. It's almost so soupy that you don't see the grain of the rice. So that's very light to the stomach if you want to have that in the morning or for dinner. I usually have that. Like, if you want protein in it, I mean, mung beans.
Gotcha. Yeah, mung beans have a good source of protein.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so Ashwini, thanks for sharing about your morning routine and elaborating a little bit more about that. I love bhakti. Like, I wasn't familiar with that concept until we started talking through this, but bhakti is such a great practice. So that's such a lovely way to start the morning, and the Hanuman is amazing. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, if you want people to take one thing out of today, what would that be?
One thing from today, I think the biggest thing is the importance of a routine, and to know that it's going to fluctuate a little bit, but to really like be intentional with your day, and to that you are the one that gets to guide it. You know, you have some wiggle room with like work or family stuff, like really dedicate that time for yourself, because the morning is such an auspicious time, and having a really dedicated routine is I think both of us are a testament to that. It's such a game changer.
Yeah, I 100% assure that having a routine and having something in the morning will help me balance all the vata I have, balance my mind, balance my anxiety. That's like 100% testament I have from me. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us in episode 2, the Dinacharya. As a reminder, our aim is to provide educational content and share a bit of our journey into Ayurveda. What we share here is not meant to replace care you seek from medical, alternative, or otherwise provider. You you know what is best for your body and your own care. We will see you soon again on the journey into Ayurveda. Please like, share, subscribe, and check us all out on Instagram.